Pleasant afternoon to members of the media and to our viewing public live on Facebook. Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago Police Service weekly media briefing. I'm Superintendent Wayne Meister, Public Information Officer of the TTPS. Today on the briefing we have the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith, and he's joined by Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of the Criminal Division, Ms. Odette Lewis. Also Acting ASP Guy Allen, who is the head of the Gender-Based Violence Unit, and of course the head of the Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ms. Alana Wheeler. Thank you for joining us, and I'll now hand you over now to the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meister. Members of the media, good afternoon. You'll see my baton line up here this afternoon. We are just here to deal with two matters. First, to deal with the situation that is ongoing worldwide as it pertains to violence, especially on women, and sexual violence. What I will just do is to ask briefly the individuals on this table to just give you a brief rundown as to what is actually being done, and then I will make an announcement pertaining to the final piece of the puzzle for us to deal with this type of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. You would recall that we have in different units, we have units from the Child Protection Unit, we have the Victim and Witness Support Unit, we have the Counter-Trafficking Unit that is under the Ministry of National Security, and also we have the newly established Gender-Based Violence Unit. There's one other unit that must be formed. It is done worldwide, and that unit has to do with dealing specifically with the issues as it pertains to rape, incest, and sexual offenses for women. More women have been affected by sex crime than those who have not. Trinidad and Tobago would be no different. I will just go more into it later on, but what I will ask now is for the ACP for these units, ACP Lewis, to please address us.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, members of the media and the viewing public. We in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service stand committed and with full resolve under the leadership of Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith to protect and serve all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, especially those who are victims of non-intimate sexual violence and assaults. A comparison of data of reports of rape for the period January 1st to May 31st, 2019 and January 1st to May 31st, 2020 shows 57 reports for the period last year as compared with 28 reports for the period this year. The decrease may have been as a result of underreporting of sexual offenses. With the introduction of the new Sexual Offences Unit, we can expect an increase in reported cases, and we welcome the opportunity to assist and bring justice to these victims who have stayed silent for so long, but now have a dedicated avenue for voicing their experiences. The new Sexual Offences Unit will fall under a one-stop shop for all victims of all forms of violence, called the Special Victims Department. The department will comprise three sections: the Child Protection Unit, the Gender-Based Violence Unit, and now the new Sexual Offences Unit. The roles and responsibilities: the new Sexual Offences Unit will investigate all reports of sexual assaults against adult victims, being male or female, where the assault is non-intimate and targeted, example date rape, as well as random acts of violence committed during the commission of another series of crimes, example kidnappings or burglaries. Training: the sensitivity of these investigations give rise to the need for continued training for officers of this unit. Officers will be trained in taking reports with a view to elicit specific information which can identify leads and potential suspects, collecting and packaging evidence for submission for analysis. To assist with investigations, officers will also liaise with the other specialist units such as the Cybercrime Unit, the Research Analytical Unit, Social Media Unit, and Forensics for expertise, and resources. Outreach, this unit will be decentralized with Sexual Offences Unit officers assigned to each of the 9 policing divisions to afford victims the benefit of prompt and efficient service from the TTPS. Victims of sexual offenses are therefore encouraged to make reports via the multiple available channels by calling 999, the TTPS app, or via the soon-to-be-launched Report Crimes online platform in the TTPS website. Officers of the Sexual Offences Unit will then be assigned to each case and will go to the victims. If the victims do not desire or cannot visit a police station to give a statement about their ordeal. External and internal partners networking. This unit will network widely with several internal and external partners to provide social support functions for victims. Partners include, but will not be limited to, the Ministry of Health, the Victim and Witness Support Unit, the Counter Trafficking Unit, the Rape Crisis Center of Trinidad and Tobago, and even the judiciary, with a view of setting up a special court to deal with sexual matters in camera hearings, and the Justice Protection Unit to provide safety and security for victims and witnesses during the investigative and judicial process. In conclusion, as we continue the transformation of the TTPS under the leadership of Commissioner Gary Griffith, citizens will benefit from this specialized unit with fully trained and dedicated officers who are prepared to continue to protect and serve with pride. I thank you.
Thank you very much, ACP Lewis. So the point is, in the same manner that we established the gender-based violence unit, many times individuals who will be victims in such crime, they will not want to report the crime. Sometimes when it is they do not feel that justice is served. Sometimes the perpetrator, nothing is done. And in the same way that we formed the gender-based violence unit, it was anticipated based on our working relationship with the NYPD and other institutions. They expected that there would be an increase because now the persons who are the victims, they will now realize and feel now that there can be justice, it can assist them in their problems, and there would be an increase. So with this, I will now hand over now to the person who's in charge of the gender-based violence unit, she will also be temporarily taking control of the sexual offences unit as well, Ms. Allen.
Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith, Assistant Commissioner of Police Ms. Odette Lewis, Ms. Wheeler, members of the media, a pleasant good day. The Gender-Based Violence Unit was launched by the Commissioner of Police in January 2020. We promised stronger action by carrying out our investigative operational functions in relation to the complaints of crimes where the complaints are determined and rooted in gender inequality. To date, we have done exactly that. Since the launch of the unit, there has been 106 arrests. Today, I stand before you with a promise that we will continue to work on behalf of survivors, regardless of their gender or nationality. Before I continue, I would like to publicly thank all the police officers and the civilian staff assigned to the Gender-Based Violence Unit. Your work, dedication, and selfless pursuit for justice for the survivors has not gone unnoticed. We at the Gender-Based Violence Unit, we are committed. We have prevented broken homes. We have cared for children. We also think of the cycle of domestic violence abuse that we were able to break by removing batterers from homes in some instances due to the diligent investigations conducted into these reports. With this new initiative by the Commissioner of Police with respect to sex crimes, I am confident that these matters will be treated with the level of professionalism and urgency required. Change in every society requires a movement, and we are in the middle of this movement. Sexual abuse, whether it has occurred at home, at the workplace, at the hands of public figures, or at the hands of familiar individuals, I say today, we will investigate and prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, because we are here to serve you. We want survivors to continue to feel confident when working with the Gender-Based Violence Unit and this new Sex Crimes Unit. We have engaged in helpful projects and new initiatives to help build the requested confidence required. The following occurs when a report is made to the TTPS. We have coordination of police, advocates, and service providers to address the individual case. Development of multidisciplinary response teams that coordinates efforts from multiple governmental agencies. We also have development of task forces to explore solutions to systematically deal with the police response. We work with all parties to these reports from the beginning of the report, during, and after. In concluding, I would like to say, in keeping with the Commissioner of Police vision, we will continue to promote a change in police culture, policies, and practices. As a nation, you have called for domestic violence and sex crimes to be given priority. We have listened, and we will continue to listen and make great a Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to the media, you'll see on the screen, that is the breakdown we have as the layout, as it pertains to the different type of units to deal with special victims. So just as the same as the gender-based violence unit, it is improper that women can be sexually assaulted, and then they may feel that they'll be more traumatized when it is that they try to report the crime. They go to the stations, the officers may not be trained, then we have the situation of the importance of swabbing and so forth, told not to go in a shower for 24 hours. And now what we'll be doing, through the use of technology and the forensic department that we will have in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, persons will know when held and arrested, we will be doing swabbing. The swabbing of that individual can actually go back to years to assist in even solving cold cases. So it is all well and good to have the sample of someone who may be raped, but if that stays in a shelf and it is not linked to a possible perpetrator, nor by linking the DNA samples of the of anyone, and we can now backtrack into crimes that would have gone back years ago. So this will assist us in trying to look at cold cases, but also to ensure that it is a greater deterrent for those persons to understand now that there are consequences, and we have now lifted our standard. As mentioned, in each division, we intend to have, in each region, we intend to have a specific building for individuals for us to deal with such crime. One in Port of Spain and Western, one in Northern and Northeastern, one for Eastern, Southern, Southwest, and Central, and one in Tobago. We'll also intend to use the police hospital, and also trying to look at other avenues where we have understood that at times women, based on possible domestic violence or even being sexually assaulted, they may go to a hospital, and we need to ensure that the law is enforced, that when these persons go there, that the reports come back to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We need to ensure that that type of legislation is also done for persons who may go to private medical institutions. This must come to us. If it comes to us, then we will be able to act. If it does not come to us, based on the victim, even if the victim does not want to report the crime, if that information comes to the police service, we can now go after the possible perpetrator. I will now ask the head of the counter-trafficking unit, Salana Wheeler, to speak to you. And the reason why they are here, they've been very instrumental in the last few years to improve the concern we have dealing with human trafficking. Human trafficking obviously will have a link with what we are speaking about, because you would have seen for the last few years, we continue to have raids dealing with illegal immigrants coming into the country. And then when we have certain raids in certain institutions, we realize that they are minors. So this involves child prostitution, and individuals will come to Trinidad and Tobago under false pretense by individuals, and then they are forced now into a life of prostitution. This all is part of sex violence. And with that, I will ask the head of the counter-trafficking unit, Salana Wheeler, to address you.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffith. Good afternoon, Commissioner, ACP Lewis, Acting Superintendent Guy Allen, members of the media, and members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you on the work of the Counter-Trafficking Unit. The Counter-Trafficking Unit was formed in the year 2013 after proclamation of the Trafficking in Persons Act, Chapter 1210. The unit has been formed under the Ministry of National Security and is a specialized unit that treats with investigating and managing the government's response to human trafficking. Since the inception of the unit, I wish to share with you some of the facts that we have found through the cases that we have identified. The types of human trafficking we have identified in Trinidad and Tobago are mainly sexual exploitation, forced labor, and domestic servitude. Sexual exploitation is the most prevalent type of trafficking. In fact, 85% of our human trafficking cases in Trinidad and Tobago are for sexual exploitation. This compared to 59% of the global cases, and that's from the UNODC 2018 report. Over 80% of our victims of trafficking are foreign nationals. The businesses that we have found victims being exploited are in bars, guest houses, massage parlors, spas, restaurants, gaming machine industry, and of course the traditional brothels. Trinidad and Tobago's first human trafficking court case was for sex trafficking. Trinidad and Tobago's first child trafficking case was for child prostitution. When we look at the academic researchers, there was a research conducted by CARICOM over the past year that suggested that unlike most other CARICOM islands, sex trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago is driven by a strong local demand for sex services. What does that mean? It means that 81% of the demand for sex services in Trinidad and Tobago is from local persons and not foreigners. Some of the akin offenses we have found in our human trafficking cases are rape, sexual offenses, offenses against the person, offenses against children, proceeds of crime, and offenses under the Anti-Gang Act. And recently, we were able to identify and disrupt a large trafficking network that engaged in the smuggling of minors from Venezuela to Trinidad and Tobago. We are still in the process of identifying further perpetrators. Some of those perpetrators included police officers from the rank of inspector to constable. The majority of the victims that we have identified have a history of incest, sexual assault, sexual offenses, and other types of gender-based violence. Many of our victims struggle with Stockholm Syndrome, and they blame themselves for what happened to them. They struggle with fear, intimidation, guilt, shame, and embarrassment. Traffickers often use social media, online platforms, and chat groups to target, isolate, and groom vulnerable persons. Once these persons are recruited, traffickers continue to use these platforms to exploit the victims, even after we have rescued the victims. The traffickers continue to send messages to threaten, harass, and intimidate victims under our care, often discouraging them from cooperating with the police and the authorities. During the COVID stay-at-home and lockdowns, we have seen an increase in online and social media usage, which has led to more online grooming of our minors. I thank you for your ears, and I hand it back over to Commissioner Griffith.
Thank you very much. So with what we have just mentioned, there's a reason for this. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are more than just going after criminals, that being gangs and big fish. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, as with our society, we need to protect those who cannot protect themselves, or who are bullied, victimized, targeted, sometimes even seen as a soft target, and profiled. We could recall within the last 18 months, we have seen so many situations where such persons have been victimized. I recall just a few months ago when we actually released elderly persons in a cage, and we had persons actually trying to defend that. We have seen the situation with children, which is why the Child Protection Unit is so important. It has been known for years of the problem with women being raped or abused in different ways, which is why we have established the Gender-Based Violence Unit and now the Sexual Offences Unit. And then crime committed on the LGBTQI community being targeted. cruelty to animals, foreigners through sex slavery, young girls through child pornography and child prostitution, and young men through being influenced to join gangs and then be killed. So the importance of these units, it is very critical. You must have elite units to have highly trained persons who understand the sensitivity, the confidentiality, and to know how to treat with the victims and for us to go after the perpetrator. The second part of the media conference has to do with, again, what is taking place internationally. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and I wish to remind the country, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we recognize the demographics of the police service. Hence, our emphasis from a policing perspective treats not with race and racial profiling, but with the use of force in the conduct of our duties. This is a serious issue to us. If you recall, just last year, over 500 persons were killed. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are fully aware of our responsibility. What is ironic is that what happened in Minneapolis, it goes in line with what I have been saying just a few weeks ago, whereby I have stated and been heavily opposed by a few that if a police officer is charged for a violent crime, be it murder, rape, kidnapping, armed robbery, when I stated that officer should be fired immediately and not wait for their court cases to be completed. A police officer, any police officer, is expected to be more disciplined and be accountable, and hence be of a higher standard than the average citizen, as they possess enormous responsibility and authority, and that responsibility and authority must not be abused. So in this situation, imagine if what happened in Minneapolis happened in Trinidad and Tobago, and 4 police officers decided to press their knee and hold down an individual who was unarmed and not resisting arrest. And those police officers could be charged for second-degree murder. I have persons here in this country, they have been attacking me and telling me that it is the right of these police officers to remain as police officers. It is their right to be paid as police officers, and because I need to wait for their day in court, because you cannot try someone twice for the same offense. I beg to differ. I am demanding that every officer must be of the standard benefiting for him to wear that uniform, and I am increasing that level of discipline. I need to make every officer accountable, but in the same manner, I would fight to defend the rights and image and reputation of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and every law-abiding and professional officer. Having said that, I think I need to clarify the situation. People are trying to draw relevance with what has taken place in the United States with Trinidad and Tobago. It is unbelievable that some are trying to compare 4 police officers placing a knee on an unarmed man continuously for 9 minutes under no threat to when we have officers here in Trinidad and Tobago, when they come under hostile fire, when law-abiding citizens are targeted and killed by criminals to the point that one actually blew away the head of one of my police officers on Christmas Eve night, off duty, leaving a wife, a mother, a father, a child in grief on Christmas Day. And then when our same police officers confront the same individual who had in his possession the firearm he stole from the police officer he killed, and we confront him and he is killed, persons will try to take a photograph of that and compare that to Minneapolis. It is chalk and cheese. They are 2 totally different things. With that, however, it is important that we must ensure that our police officers are trained in the minimum use of force. Never before the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we have the training and the tools to ensure that the minimum use of force is used. And that has gone with the training that the police officers have now in proper protocol for customer service training, verbal persuasion, body cameras, and then after minimum use of force tools such as pepper spray and tasers to ensure that the only time a police officer will use a firearm is when it is that he's left with no other choice. With that, I would just like to have a short demonstration here with the police officers, if you all can come forward please, to show what is done and how we train our police officers to ensure that what took place in Minneapolis will not take place in Trinidad and Tobago by our police service officers. Gentlemen.
Commissioner of Police, SP, Ms. Lewis, Superintendents, good day, and welcome. Good day, Trinidad and Tobago. I am William Shama. I am a master instructor in law enforcement for defensive tactics and use of force. What we want to demonstrate today is I want to take you all through, slowly but quickly, through our policy and show how the training marries with what our how the training marries with what our policy says. So what you'll be seeing on the screen is Departmental Order 92 of 11, which is our use of force policy. And I'm going to break down every section, how we deal with it. So firstly, I'll just run it through so you'll see, and then I will do the demonstrations after. If you look at the screen there, you will see a cooperative subject. A cooperative subject, the subject complies with the officer's commands and communication. Simple gesture or request to leave will gain voluntary compliance. If the persons, the suspects, comply with this, the only response the officer will have would be presence and communication, because presence is a part of our use of force. Just being on the scene is supposed to cause some reaction from the persons who are being non-compliant or suspects in a scenario. Moving along, we'll move to what we call a passive resistant person. The passive is when a subject refuses to comply with a directive from a law enforcement officer, but does not attempt to engage in physical action likely to cause bodily harm. So let's say that door is our only exit and there is something happening in here, and this person stands in the area of the door and decides they are not moving at all. They are not going to be using verbals, they are not going to be saying anything to us, but they're not moving at all. The officer options are presence, communication, and physical control. We're going to go into that also. As we move further down, we have what we refer to as an active resistant person. It occurs when an officer encounters a behavior which physically counteracts his or her attempt to control the person. So simply put, let's say in the passive resistant, I go and I try to use my control tactics or my physical control to move the person calmly and peacefully, and the person resists. There are options. The options are presence, communication, physical control, and intermediate weapons, which we talk about things like the baton and otherwise. As we go down further, we see we have an assaultive person. This is a person who will try to hit the officer. They will try to spit on the officer. The officer move from here, just shoot itself. These kind of things, you will have these persons behaving in such manner. And the officer can now have present communication, physical control, intermediate weapons also. They all fall in this category. And under this, you will have also mechanical weapons, where we could talk about the taser and pepper spray and all of that could come into this scenario. And last, which I'm not going to be demonstrating, but we have the grievous bodily harm or death individual. This is the individual who tries to kill the officer, who tries to maim, who tries to stab the officer, chop up the officer. Then we have presence, communication, and of course, we move to deadly force. But what we're going to show is the escalation and how slowly it moves. Of course, we don't have much time to go in depth in it, but I will try and at least show each stage, how we deal with it, one technique or one way of dealing with each of these. The philosophy of our system for defensive tactics, which is being taught at the Police Academy, and of course, the commissioner is now pushing to make it more, and it's not now, because we have been doing this for a while, but as recent as January, we had at least 10 instructors trained, where we brought in some guys to train the officers actually in these techniques that we're going to be doing now. And of course, it's going to be increased as we go along. The philosophy of this system is simply protect and restrain. It's not to beat up. Protect and restrain. So based on the public's reaction to the officers, these are some of the options that the officers have. So for instance, I approach him, sir, that they calm down. Sir, okay, sir, hand up in the air. Hand up in the air. Turn around slowly. Turn around slowly, sir. Turn around slowly, sir. Just turn around. Turn around. Spread your feet. Spread your feet. Yes. Just relax, sir. Interlace your fingers above your head. Palms on the back of your head. Palms on the back of your head. So the palm facing upwards on the back of your head. Nice. So what happened here, he is being cooperative. And I will just now move in simply, and I will carry out what we call a pat frisk, and I will check him. Just do it this way. I will check him to make sure he has nothing on him that could be harmful to himself or to me. There is no aggression here. There is no need for me to go any further. I'm in a position of control. I have control of his hands. I have control of his spine, the legs, but no pressure is being placed. What varies or differs is according to the height of the participant or the person that I'm dealing with. What I will do is maybe place his hand to the center of his back instead of on top of his head. So that is how we know the difference, and then I will control from here. So that is simply a compliant person. So now we have a passive resistant person. So say the person is just there, he's not doing anything physically. But I need to move him. So I get in, sir, good day, sir. I'm Corporal Shama. How are you today? He's not responding. Sir, what you are doing at this time, sir, you are disrupting the flow of people entering and leaving this environment. He's not responding. So now I will move in calmly, sir. I'll try one more time. Sir, please, let me see your hands. Hands on top of your head, sir. Right, he continues to be resilient to me. I'm going to move in. Take control of his hands in this area. Hands up your head, palm fist upward, sir. He is relaxed, and I now escort him away from the scenario. Again, I have control of the individual by just taking control of the wrist and the area of the elbow. It locks the hand out. There is no pain to him. There is no pressure being placed to cause any hurt or damage to the individual at this point in time. But let's say now I have the person here, and the person decides he wants to get active resistance. So let's say, for instance, he tries to pull his hand away like that. There are avenues and techniques for that also. All I'm going to do is as he pulls forward, I'm going to just continue in this direction, place him in a wrist lock, sir, calm down, sir. Stop resisting, sir. You are hurting yourself. Stop resisting. And then, so long as he complies, I move him away from the scenario. Simple control. Nothing further. Let's say I move into an area now where the person is becoming assaulted. So I come in. Sir, what is happening here? Calm down. So calm down, sir. Sir, do not come any closer, sir. Sir, do not come any closer. He strikes. I take him down. Get up, get up, get up. I control him because the head. Nowhere is my knee on his neck or his spine. My knee is across the body on the meat of his back. I have control. I don't need to put any more stress that is necessary. If he tries to move, he's locked. Because I'm controlling the hand. He's controlled, no pressure on his neck. I will then say, sir, are you okay?
Sir, yeah,
you're okay, sir?
Yeah,
so long as I can hear him and he can answer, that is my test to know that he is speaking and he's breathing properly. So I control from here. My next step from here, of course, will be to handcuff him. Simply. So I'll demonstrate later again. So we're going to move one more. So let's say he continues again. I draw my baton. So I talk it in. He's resisting slowly. So calm down. Sir, if you continue, I will have to use my baton to control you. This is how we use the baton. So for instance, he might come in. I will strike to the knee. What I want to do now is get this space here. So I'm going to go in, control, and get him down from here, control, and this time, my knee is not in my body. I have control of his hands, I have control of the baton, which helps me lock his hands into place. So if he tries anything again, he is controlled from here, he cannot move, he cannot go anywhere, and he is not under any real stress or any real chances of causing death to him. So I'm controlled, I can still look around, check to make sure everything is safe with me, and I have control from here. What I want to demonstrate is one more thing. For if we have somebody flat on the ground, and he's going to mimic being handcuffed. So place your hand like if you are handcuffed behind your back. This is how an officer is supposed to pick this person up. No longer the days where we grab a person from here and drag them. No longer do we do those things. What we simply do, I position myself this way, and it doesn't matter how big he is. My knee is lined up with the shoulders. My supporting hand goes under his neck to control his neck, so that there is no pressure on his neck. I reach over, pull this way, sir, sit up. So I have control of him here. I will then ask him, sir, bring your right leg heel into your groin area slowly. Nice. I will be taking you in that direction. Understood?
Yes, sir.
I will then switch, keep in contact. My support hand goes in between the space of this hand. The other hand goes over. This is my strong hand. And I will rotate him in to the area of the leg. Slowly, sir. You're going to go up until your knees go. Control, stop right there. I still have control. No pain to him. Next foot up. And then I will go into a forward prisoner transport or a double 90 control, which I have control of him. I have control of him if he tries anything further, but he's not under any stress. I'll move him. If I want, because I feel he is a little more deviant than I think, I will move to a reverse prisoner transport, which means I'll carry him so he's a bit more comfortable in a rearward position. And I will escort him out with simple control. So, Trinidad and Tobago, this is just a touch of what is being taught here and otherwise, because I don't only teach here. And these techniques I teach at the FBI Academy and other places in the US. So I know what is being taught and what is supposed to be done. So Trinidad will not have that problem of anybody, or not supposed to have that problem of anybody placing a knee on nobody's neck or anything like that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And you know, we can always draw reference to persons on social media. They will always try to relate what is happening in a wrong way internationally with Trinidad and Tobago. There was one individual that tried to relate what happened in Minneapolis to a photograph of the person who was the cop killer and tried to draw reference. That was Mr. Abu Bakr. Then we had other situations that we've seen on social media, the photograph of what took place at UE with the police officer. But again, what the instructors just showed you, look in relation to how the individual was and where the knee was in comparison to what you saw in Minneapolis. But persons would not see that. They will automatically try to draw a link. And I think that is unfortunate. I fully understand Mr. Cameron and Mr. Abu Bakr's concern. And I give the assurance that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are not the enemy. We do not have the same type of situation in the United States that is here in Trinidad and Tobago. If we really want to find a comparison between what happened in Minneapolis and our country, it has to do with the part whereby some kill an unarmed man in cold blood in Trinidad and Tobago, and this happens hundreds of times every year, annually by the same shooters, and these murderers who kill the young men in cold blood, those young men are also unarmed. The same bitterness and the anger that many of us have by the rightful concern as it pertains to Black Lives Matter, it should indeed be done here. But let us target it at the right persons, not the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We are not the enemy. I have 10,000 odd police officers, and guess what? None of them are white. So just by that alone, let us take stock and understand that my police officers, just as the Black Lives Matter for every citizen in this country, and all lives matter for the police service, my 10,000 police officers, those Black Lives Matter to me as well. So when persons speak and they try to discredit the police service and try to put pressure on them, it takes just 1 second for an inaccurate decision and that officer could lose his life. So the Black Lives Matter of my police officers as well. So Mr. Campbell and Mr. Abu Bakr, I understand your concern. I'm here to work with you all. We are here to work with you all. We are not the enemy. We want to know who the enemy is. The enemy will be those persons who killed the 538 persons last year. Do you have the data? The 538 persons that were murdered last year, that was not done by police officers. Those are the Black Lives that matter. That 538, it's a breakdown. And as you look right there, basically almost all of the 538 murders, those were the Black Lives that matter. And the police officers, that's what we are here to do. We are here to ensure that that does not take place. Because the individual is the real enemy of the state. Again, if we want to compare Minneapolis to Trinidad and Tobago, what happened in Minneapolis is that individual who has now been charged for murder, he was held several occasions before for doing something just as bad. It's just that this time it reached to the point of someone being killed. And every single time when he was held for it, he was released. So we want to compare what happened in Minneapolis to here? Yes. We had an individual recently that was arrested 13 times for an illegal firearm, and 13 times he was released. We have information that he was instrumental in killing 40 Black lives. But every time he was released, he went back out, got another firearm, and then went to kill again. So if it is we really want to look and we have bitterness, it is those individuals who have a problem with a bail amendment bill to make sure that when those persons are held, we can save Black lives out there. We need to have a situation of concern when it is we have the Interception of Communication Act, when we are trying to stop prisoners from passing information on to other individuals outside. And we are trying to put that type of communication to ensure that if persons, whether it be friends, family, or attorneys, that may be used as a conduit towards passing information from prisoners to the gangs outside to put hits on others. And we are making amendments to that Interception of Communication Act to do that, to make sure you have a prison in the prison, and persons have an issue with that. So if we want to have the anger, we want to have the bitterness, let us target it at the right persons, the individuals who have been instrumental in killing those 538 black lives last year. That was not the police. What we do, we are instrumental in ensuring that those persons who killed those 538 persons, they are brought to justice. And if it is that they try to fire at my police officers, we will be forced to use minimum use of force, and at times it would be the firearm. But I give the assurance to the public that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service will not abuse our authority. It is difficult for me, as I conclude, that when it is that police officers do it, they abuse their authority the very few times that they do it. And I try my best to ensure that those individuals should be fired. I get a fight back. The same happens right now in Minneapolis and other parts of the world. If you listen to the data, it has shown that other police chiefs and commissioners are trying to do virtually the same thing that I am doing. And they are getting pushed back by unions, by persons who feel that it's their right, it's the right of the police officers to stay and remain. And that is what happened in Minneapolis. Every single time that individual was held and he was found culpable of abusing his authority, he was brought back into the service until this is what happened. So we want to look at the same situation in Minneapolis to Trinidad and Tobago, when we have an individual who continues to be arrested. The 500 odd shooters, we continue to arrest them, they continue to be released, and if found guilty, they are given $5,000 bail to go back out. Those are the individuals that we must see similar to those police officers in Minneapolis. That is the enemy of the state, not the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We will have our faults, and if anyone breaches their authority, they would be dealt with. But as you would have seen in the demonstration here, our police officers are highly trained, among the best in the world, and we will do all that is required. We will continue to put training as priority to ensure as much as possible that what took place in Minneapolis would not take place in this country. Members of the media, I thank you and open for questions.
Hi, Commissioner Griffith, Alicia Boucher from TV6. For years we have heard that it's something that you just said, that our police officers are world-class trained. We know that the situation in Minneapolis, it is said that the officer didn't follow procedure as well. So I want to ask about the use of the body cameras, because in terms of when we have incidents where it is said that a person shot at police and the police just returned fire, we have contradicting statements. So what about the use of the body cameras because that may help verify or clarify certain situations? And in addition to that, what is the update, seeing that we are talking about abuse of power in terms of those two officers who were supposed to be under investigation in terms of the alcohol?
Sure. Okay, Ms. Boucher, I'll be able to answer that by giving an example. And I want the media to understand and listen closely to what I'm going to do here. Ms. Boucher, let's just say that you're confronting the police, and I'm a police officer and I'm walking around, and let me put it that you're a police officer, and I am now going to confront you, and I decide to I'm now putting my hand in my pocket to draw a firearm. What are you going to do? What is your reaction?
I'm a police officer.
Yeah, and the person is now going to draw, and he's now thinking of, and he's looking at you, and he's holding something in his hand, and he's pulling something looking like a firearm. What are you going to do?
Draw for my firearm.
Yeah, and then what? And then what happens?
I would order you to probably put your hands
Too late,
up,
you're dead.
but I would draw for my firearm. I'm sorry?
Too late, you're dead.
That's what I would do.
No. While you were thinking and speaking about it, you're dead. It takes 1 second. A police officer probably has 1 second. So while you started thinking and analyzing and strategizing, likewise when people go to court and they spend hours trying to strategize, analyze as what the police officer should and should not do, it takes 1 second for a police officer to make a decision. That is how difficult the job is of a police officer. Because at times the person might be drawing, the police officer draws his firearm, shoots him, and the man is actually pulling out his cell phone. We in fact have a simulation theater with hundreds of different scenarios, and you'll be shocked. I can bring all of you all in that simulation theater, and all of you all would either be killed or would have killed someone. We have scenarios where a 10-year-old girl, she pulls out a gun and she's pointing it at your fellow police officer, and she says she's going to shoot the police officer. What are you going to do? You'll think, Do I shoot that little girl and then after the media will come after me? Or do I hold back and she blows away the head of my police officer? Next thing you shoot the girl and you realize it is a toy gun. There are scenarios, it comes. That is why it is the most difficult job, but it is the most noble of all professions, because you dedicate your life to this country, and you can give your life, you can lose your life, or you can end up in prison. That is how difficult it is for a police officer. So when people continue to condemn, criticize police officers, they do not know until you go in the shoes of these men and women out there to understand what they have to go through on a daily basis. And then when you have persons with firearms shooting at our police officers and they shoot back, we must ask for justification. Why don't we shoot them in their leg? It does not work that way. So the point I'm trying to show to you is that at times it is very difficult for a police officer to make an immediate, you have to make a 1 second reaction. If it is that you are walking, the body camera is to be switched on. So if you have 1 second to make a decision in a firefight, your first instinct is not going to be, okay, let me fix here to fix my body camera. The first thing you have to do is to find something known as cover from view and cover from fire. Cover from view could get you away from the person seeing you, but the bullet could go through the item that provides the cover from view. Cover from fire ensures that you cannot be hit when it is the shots are coming at you. All of this is very difficult. So for a police officer, it is easy for anyone to say, well, when this is happening and there's a man is firing up a weapon at you, let me just fix my body camera, let me turn it on. The body camera cannot stay on 24/7, it's battery operated. So what happens is that the police officers, when they get ambushed, when they get hit in a firefight, it is very difficult for a police officer to turn on a body camera. Likewise, if you're in a firefight and you get shot at, the body camera is not going to be able to assist you, because when it is you have to dive for cover from view, cover from fire, you're going to get blurs. It's not to say that you're a photographer in the media and you're actually recording what is happening. So it is very, and again, my point being, look worldwide, see how often the body camera can be effective if you're on patrol, you have it on, which is why we have live video footage now of all the police vehicles on patrol. That is to take away the concern the police will have to worry about with the body camera. The cameras on top of the police vehicles, it is providing a live feed back to the command center. So yes, we have the body cameras, but when it comes to a firefight that can last 3 to 5 seconds maximum, switching on a body camera and trying to face the body camera to see who shot first, it is going to be very difficult. As it pertains to the other incident, we have almost come to a completion of that. There were 2 soldiers that were involved in it. I know what happened, unfortunately, is that everything on the front page was that the police officers were involved. It didn't mention that the persons who were involved in the communicating with the individual were 2 soldiers. The weapon pointed at the individual was a soldier. The alcohol handed over to the individual was a soldier. The threats and the demands made were soldiers. And it's not in any way for me to pass the buck and blame soldiers, but again, it is so unfortunate. All you saw on the front page is the police, whereby the police officers were the 2 of them in the front seat. It does not mean that they are not culpable. We can see that they were aiding and abetting, and they were part of it. And this is where the responsibility of police officers come in, because you did not actually directly participate in a crime. You, as a police officer, had a right to have prevented it. So I do not want to say much more. By next week, we'll be able to give you a full update as it pertains to what action is being taken on all 4 individuals from the Defense Force and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
I just had one more question, and this is in terms of the sexual crimes, right? Before, we are seeing an increase in terms of men coming forward for domestic violence, right? I guess based on certain mechanisms put in place. Can you give me an idea of, in terms of statistics for men coming forward, especially in incestuous situations, in terms of sexual crimes, and I guess in terms of what we can do to help them better be able to feel free to report, because there's some kind of stigma, I guess, that goes along with men who have been subject to sexual violence.
Well, I'll hand over to Ms. Allen, but before that, I can mention that the majority of such crimes as it pertains to that gender is on boys. And that is a bigger concern than with men. I think every time we discuss this very sensitive topic, we always speak about the concern about men being abused. But the percentage there, it is very small. And we're not speaking about just sexual abuse, gender-based violence. We're speaking of the trauma that many women go through based on abuse, financial, psychological, based on threats on the individual, trying to undermine the individual. All of this is some type of abuse as it pertains to gender-based violence. Ms. Allen, you'd like to speak any more pertaining to, and again, by the opening of the gender-based violence unit, it has opened the avenue for persons, again, same-sex relationships. Again, there was a concern by individuals to want to go to a police station. Now, because of the gender-based violence unit, because we have persons who are trained and understand the sensitive nature of such crime, there's been an increase in such reports. Ms. Allen?
Yes, and most males, they may not want to go to the police station. We would meet them at wherever avenue is comfortable to them. So with the gender-based violence and the new approach, men would start to come forward and feel comfortable. Yeah?
Yes, good day. Julian Neves from the Newsday. I have a few questions for the Commissioner. Commissioner, you mentioned Mr. Cambon. I wanted to get you on something that he said. He spoke about police killings involving people from certain areas. He mentioned Beetham, Laventille, Sealots. And he said there's an assumption, I don't know if it's both by the police and by the society, that because the person is from that area, they were up to no good, and there's no real call for investigation, compared to if there's a police killing involve someone from another area. So I don't know if you wanted to respond to that.
I work on data. Mr. Cambon, there are certain people that are trying to use this situation that is worldwide to make themselves relevant. Can he bring data to show that? Can he bring any data? And I challenge him, bring any data to show that if someone was in another place and he had a firearm, the police did not treat it in the same manner. You just saw the demonstration. There's a minimum use of force policy. So regardless of what part of the country you're in, regardless of whether it is your white, black, green, yellow, if it is that you have a firearm and you intend to shoot at police officers, the police will be left with no choice under the minimum use of force policy to act. So you cannot use a geographical location to let him, I challenge him and anyone, show me where anywhere else that there was a situation where persons fired at police officers and the police did not act in the same manner because of where that was, or because of who that person was, or because of the color of that person. We are not shooting back at anyone because of their color. We are shooting back at them because they are criminals trying to kill police officers. That is what this is about. This is not about black and white. This is about common sense. This is about good versus evil. And we are the good ones. We are the ones that are trying. And if it is that we confront persons who have killed 538 black lives that matter last year, we are the heroes. We are the ones that are going out to protect the black lives out there. All lives matter. And that is what we are doing. But in our confrontation, to take the first bullet and defend the hundreds of thousands of persons out there, we are being attacked. When it is that we are the ones that are willing to be in the front, in the firing line. That is why police officers have been shot at. That is why one lost his life on Christmas Eve night. And the same individual who killed him stole his firearm, and then when he tried to do the same with other police officers, he was killed, and then the police is to be blamed. So again, I challenge anyone. This is not about the location. It is about where the police go on patrol, and if they go on patrol and they are shot at based anywhere in the world, that is why it is persons have a firearm user's license. If it says somebody shoots at you, you would shoot back. And you would have seen in the raids we have. I have conducted and led raids in Valsane, in West Moorings, in Glencoe, in many other places. So it doesn't matter. Wherever the crime is, we will go and we will enforce the law. If it is regardless of who the person is or where the incident takes place, our job is to ensure minimum use of force. But if persons decide to go to the extreme with firearms and decide to shoot at police officers, we are obligated to defend ourselves.
And secondly, you also made a comment. He said that your language and demeanor is an incitement to kill. I don't know if you want to respond to that. And he also cited the one-shot, one-kill policy.
Well, again, in training, anyone, unfortunately, the individuals, he would not know the difference between a bullet and a baton. He's untrained. He would not understand. The fact of the matter is that anyone who has a firearm, the target that you have is to ensure that you neutralize the opponent. That you have to, if you aim at a leg and you do not neutralize, it allows the person the ability to shoot back at you and kill you. He doesn't understand that, or maybe he does not want to. But and again, I feel sorry for him because I know he has good intentions. Our job is to educate those who do not understand. The fact of the matter is that police officers, I will defend my police officers to the hilt. If anyone decides to shoot at my police officers, we have seen it. I have a situation where police officers, the bullet has been through their jacket, a bullet has hit some on their vests. We have the vehicles being shot at. We have seen it constantly. So it is not it is a situation where my officers are being shot at, and if they are being shot at, well, then they have a right to defend themselves. That is the basic minimum use of force policy.
Okay, my next question, moving away from Mr. Campbell's statements. Ms. Wheeler, she mentioned there's a recent breaking down of a ring of bringing people in from Venezuela. And she said officers were involved. And if you wanted to comment on that.
Officers, sorry.
They said local officers were involved in the
again, it makes it difficult for me. I am trying my best. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is not perfect. Our officers come from society, and this society ain't perfect. So what we have to do is to expect that we train our officers to be at a higher standard, and we set checks and balances to ensure that we have a higher disciplinary level. But it makes it very difficult when there are systems in that persons will try to tell me as the Commissioner of Police why I should not fire anyone, why persons on suspension should get full pay. This goes back again, I speak about withdrawal relation to Minneapolis. When it is this situation, don't be surprised that some of these officers, their unions will demand that they remain as police officers. I am trying to change the system here, that if any police officer is charged for any violent crime, be it murder, kidnapping, rape, human trafficking, they should be fired. Because we do not want those individuals in the police service. I am pushing hard for polygraph testing to be done. Every single police officer, when they joined, they were willing to be polygraphed for anything. Now, there are some that how dare I even think of them being polygraphed. So now I'm trying to put, especially in sensitive positions, such as the Southwestern Peninsula, where we have intelligence of certain officers who have compromised some of the operations by allowing the illegal entry of humans, of illegal immigration, weapons, and drugs. And if the individuals do not want to be polygraphed, so be it, I cannot do anything, but I do have the authority to transfer. And then when I transfer, they want to take me to court because they find it is their divine right to remain at a certain place. I'm also doing drug testing, which was never done before. And we are, as I mentioned previously, there are 75 police officers, inclusive of who Ms. Wheeler spoke about. We are monitoring them like a hawk. We have intelligence, but we do not have enough evidence. In some countries, that intelligence should be enough to have these officers removed. Not here. If an officer is charged for murder, they will be pushed back by unions, by organizations, by associations who will tell me it is their right to remain as police officers and to be paid. I have an issue with that. If I set a standard, lift the bar, it is going to ensure that other police officers understand that there are consequences. While saying that, I want the public again to be aware that this is a very small percentage in comparison to the vast majority of our police officers who go out there and put their lives on the line on a daily basis for country.
Okay. Well, we're here talking about a new sex crimes unit and reporting. I know there was a recent report that there was an anonymous Twitter site set up for persons to report sexual assaults, and persons actually named as sexual, and there was a report that was being investigated. I don't know if you can speak anything on that.
Yeah, sure. It is very unfortunate. This has opened a Pandora's box because several of those persons whose names have been there have stated that they did not do it. And people can't play police. So you've played a police officer, someone just does not like an individual, they pass the name on, and you have put this now on social media. And this obviously can embarrass individuals. If it is that you have enough information, you don't blast it on social media. By the formation of such a unit now, you can bring it to us, and we will launch an investigation, and we will verify whether it is rum shop talk or whether it is enough that can warrant us conducting an investigation to target such a perpetrator and bring him to justice. But you can't have anybody just making an accusation and you on social media can just plaster the person's names. That is totally irresponsible. It serves no purpose, it does not help, and all it will do now is cause a whole set of civil cases that I have no intention to get involved in. My intention is that if it is that people feel that individuals have been involved in any type of sex crime, this unit is going to ensure that we can push the envelope to put an end to it. As I said, we have reports that at least 3 to 5 women have been victims of sex crime in their life. And then when you look at the data of the number of women who report sex crimes, it is next to nothing. It is about 800 per annum in this country. That's just a little over 2 every day. Now you compare 700 in comparison to 600,000 women. And it means that it's either that this is a really great country with law-abiding citizens, or it means that many women are being affected and they just do not want to come forward and report it because of fear of intimidation, victimization, reprisal by the the perpetrator, and by the police they believe that the police is not going to do an effective job. This offense unit is going to ensure we change that game to ensure that persons are aware. If I am a survivor, I know that I can report it to a unit that is elite, it is confidential, they are highly trained, they will not treat me as a perpetrator but as a victim, they will know how to speak to me, and then with that now it will ensure that it provides a greater deterrent for the perpetrators who have been doing this for years, especially with little children, and believe that because there are no consequences, they can continue their actions.
My last question, we're speaking about use of force. Is there a special section, I presume, when dealing with persons who may be mentally disabled and or physically disabled?
They clarify, yeah?
Well, no, if you're dealing with someone, the police is approaching someone, and the person may have some type of mental disability or physical disability. If there's a special thing.
I thought you were still dealing with sex
No,
crimes.
no. Sorry, I moved on from that. Yes, if there's a special section, how to deal with those persons?
I think, he will come forward and clarify that for you.
Good day again. Yes, there has been placed in our use of force policy an area that deals with training for mentally subnormal persons. In fact, I think it was last year, training started with some instructors from the police academy who are defensive tactics instructors, and also some psychologists. They started to put together the actual package to deal with that sort of training. Now, it has not been distributed throughout the length and breadth of the police service as yet, but the process has started, and there are persons who are trained, including myself, to deal with such incidents and scenarios. Hope that answers.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
In terms of manpower for the new sexual offences unit, I just wanted to find out what would be the complement. I know that it was mentioned that it would be decentralized and officers would be placed across the 9 divisions.
Okay, so what we'll be doing is they will not be placed in police stations. So there will be a specific building for such victims of crime, dealing with gender-based violence, child protection unit, human trafficking, and the sexual offense unit. So persons, the building will not be like a police building, it will be color even. It will be in an area where it will be easier for the individual to go there. So it is not going to be set up as a police station. We are looking at possibly four locations, one dealing with Port of Spain and Western, one dealing with Northern and Northeastern, another dealing with Eastern, Southern, Southwestern, and Central, and the fourth with Tobago. But as I said, the concept of this is not for the victim to have to come to these buildings. This is going to be a delivery service similar to the gender-based violence unit, where it is you come, you make a report, you call via 999, via the police app, or online reporting. We come to you. We come to your home. We deal with the situation. We do the investigation, and it will try to minimize the trauma as much as possible. Okay, and again, I want to emphasize. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, these are your police officers. They are our police officers. We are here to help. We are part of it. We are here to ensure that the situation we have seen, Black lives do matter. And with that, all lives matter. We need to ensure that we do our job. This is not about race in Trinidad and Tobago. This is about a situation of good versus evil. The individuals out there who are the shooters, they have the problem. They are the ones that we must target. And likewise, when it is we have the same situation and concerns we have now based on legislation or people who intend to push us back, the same way that Minneapolis police officer, on several occasions, he continued to do almost the same thing, and because of the fight back of institutions, he was allowed to go back out onto the streets. I have been getting the same situation. They say the police commissioner has the authority to hire or fire. Look what is happening now. People being charged for violent crime, and it's a major pushback. But I intend to continue pushing back because I know what we want is for this police service, our police officers, to be at a very high standard and to ensure that we can minimize the loss of Black lives. Because of course, as again wish to re-emphasize, my 10,000 police officers, they are not white. Police officers, citizens of this great country, we all matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I want to thank the panel, Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith, ACP Odette Lewis, Assistant Superintendent Guy Allen, and Ms. Alana Wheeler of the Counter Trafficking Unit. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to members of the media. See you next week, same time. Thank you.